We are in this together.
You have gifts that I don't have, and I have gifts that you don't have.
That we must see. Now is the time, because it's when we all get together that we will make the changes that we must make. We are the world.
Welcome to Malcolm and We, heard exclusively on malcolmpresents.com. And today our special guest is Don Bryant. Bryant. Like, actually, there's just a little addendum. I'm in LA, and they're unveiling a statue of Kobe Bryant today at the LA Stadium. Yeah, it's unbelievable. I think
there.
It's unbelievable how he passed. But anyway, Yana, take over.
Okay. Thank you, Malcolm. So we have today Don Bryant, and his activism began in the late 70s while attending his first rally at the 10th commemoration of the May 4th shootings at Kent State University by the Ohio National Guard. Then, in his adult life, he continued his journey towards social justice with campaigns regarding nuclear waste and test sites, peace and justice organizations, and immigration support networks. Currently, he serves as board president of the Cleveland Middle East Committee, as well as being on the CPA board of directors. CPA stands for Cleveland Peace Action. In addition to these duties, he is a member of the Northeast Ohio chapter of the Poor People's Campaign. So welcome, Don. I know you're very busy, so thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. It is a busy time.
What would you like to talk about? There's so much here we could talk about.
Well, I happen to be planning an event for tonight, and it's called Community Circle Around Gaza. And this is our third one with Cleveland Peace Action. We've heard from community members, and by community circle, we mean there's oppressions and there's struggles throughout our nation and in our city. So we invite people from the various communities to speak and represent their viewpoints from their community, such as Latinx, African American, Jewish American, Palestinian American, Asian American, on and on, because as we say, this is a melting pot. And
more like a salad, right? More like a tossed salad.
I love that. Absolutely.
Yes.
And this is our third one tonight, and we're hosted at the Root Cafe in Lakewood. And I was planning for that when we got on this call, and we have a good event. We have people coming in from Israel, Palestine on Zoom, and then we'll have folks in-house and selling artwork for contributions to the refugees in Gaza, artwork and baked goods from Palestinian American artists.
Do you get a good turnout for these community circles?
Sorry?
Do you get a good turnout for the circles?
Well, the first one we had 90, and that was back in, and that was at La Villa in Brook Park, and that was back in November. And then January we had 45, and that was hosted by a church. And tonight we'll have, we'll probably have another 45 people. It's a small cafe, so we're going to be tight.
Yeah.
Why are you recording this? You have this on tape? In video?
Well, we did the first one, and unfortunately, the guy went to Florida that videoed it, and I can't upload it. So we're working on it. And what was interesting about the first one, we had a African-American gentleman talking about not only his support for the Palestinian people, but the confrontations that occur right here in Cleveland in the hood, where there are Arab American store owners and the African American clientele don't always see eye to eye. And he wants to have an opening dialogue on that. And we're going to work on that. But right now there's a crisis. So we are going to work on that because I know it's been an issue over the years.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
Cleveland is, I unlike many other cities that I've been to, really, that tossed salad reference is something I learned in my sociology classes. Melting pot sort of implies that they kind of like melt into each other, and they don't really keep their individual identities as much because they're trying to assimilate into the culture. But the toss salad approach is that they really do try to keep their own cultures alive and their own particular, distinctions. And Cleveland is very much like that.
And that's why that tossed salad acronym representation is better than the melting pot, because
Yeah, but
they
melting
want to
pot
keep
is the
their
one you
identity.
hear more.
Well, the
Right,
thing is,
thank you.
I mean, my experience, I live in Los Angeles now for the last 40 years. Before that, I grew up in New York City. And the thing is, there are neighborhoods, and there are neighborhoods that have each ethnic group divided. They really don't live together. And then there's parts of this, well, I remember parts of Manhattan that is a melting pot. Same thing as parts of LA are melting pots where everybody's there, but that's usually more due to where people work, and generally the upper social classes, because it's more expensive. But generally in the neighborhoods are mainly ethnic, as far as I remember, and even over here.
Right. Well, that's where I was getting at, is that Cleveland is a lot like New York City in that, from that perspective, unlike other cities that I've been to. But of course, it could have changed and I could be wrong.
Yeah,
But anyway, bringing
yeah. It takes at least 2, 3 generations before that melting pot effect gets in there.
well, depending, yeah, on how much they want to assimilate somewhere,
Yeah, because
well,
the people from who are the immigrants really don't assimilate. It's their children and their children's children. They become, part of the culture.
so the younger wants to assimilate more. That
Yeah.
could be, I suppose so. But Don, getting back to the differences of opinions and whatever, and this most recent has really brought up a lot of divisiveness. And so, as a peace activist, um, how do you and your organization strive to keep finding that common ground, so that everybody can communicate together instead of communicating at each other?
There was a Christian peacemaker named Art Gish, and he's passed away. He's from Southern Ohio, and his wife Peggy is still in Athens, Ohio. And Art used to go with the Christian peacemaker team. Now it's called the community peacemaker team. But he always said, I'm on the side of the people where the guns are pointed. And I've pretty much followed that, Yana. And sometimes it's hard to tell who the guns are pointed at, but
Yeah,
but
yeah,
but but
yeah.
when we can tell, we definitely and so often we definitely side with them, I would say. And so often it's a case of injustice. So when the
Yes,
justice is applied, then the bombs won't be needed. But
right.
people don't, as far as, if you want to look at the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, you know, when Israel was created in 1948 by an act of the United Nations, there was a second resolution, 194, which said the Palestinians have the right of return to their homelands inside Israel, the new Israel. And that has never been honored. And their homes were taken, and they still have the keys. So when the justice is applied, the bombs won't be needed.
Wouldn't that be nice? How do you keep your hope alive?
Well, by hammering on the doors of my government and saying, stop arming the perpetrators of the crime.
Yeah, yeah. How big is Cleveland Peace Action? How many members do you have?
Well, we have a lot of people on that mailing list.
Yeah.
My partner does another board member does that. And I think there's, roughly 500 on that. And he might have said 800, and I just don't remember for sure. But it's not the thousands. And actually, Peace Action has been around, but had a different name back in the 80s when it was called the Nuclear Weapons Freeze Campaign way back then under Ronald Reagan. When the Cold War was at its height, and there was nuclear weapons in the USSR's hands and the US hands, and there was always that fear of how far away from midnight are we with on the nuclear clock. And
Yeah.
so yeah, and that's what it started at. And there was actually a resolution in Congress to have a nuclear weapons freeze on production of the weapons. The Soviets had stopped testing nuclear weapons at the time, and that was in 1985. And we said, well, Russia stopped, why don't we? And they said, how do you know? And we said, well, there's seismographic readings done on the borders of the Soviet Union, and we have satellites that can read a license plate on Red Square. We know when they're testing nuclear weapons, and they're not. And it's our turn to start a moratorium on the nuclear weapons test. Of course, those were underground tests because the above ground tests happened way back in the 60s, and we stopped that in 63 with the signature of President Kennedy. But we always credit the guy in charge for these momentous resolutions. But really, it was the women that were marching and the Franciscan monks that were marching from California saying, we're the downwinders. And the women, strontium-90 was showing up in their breast milk. And they said, we have to stop this atmospheric nuclear bomb test. And that's where it all started. And then Kennedy, he followed suit and he signed. So we're happy that he did. So we're talking about the Peace Action group. We did morph into Peace Action eventually through a couple other transformations from the Nuclear Weapons Freeze Campaign to Sane Freeze. SANE was an international organization for nuclear, for peace. I don't remember what the SANE stands for. And then we evolved from that. And so we have branches throughout the country, and this is the Cleveland group. So,
well, what I hear about a lot is the Massachusetts Peace Action group.
Right on. They're very active.
Now who's there's somebody really, his name is escapes me. Jonathan. All right.
From Massachusetts? I do not know. No, I do not know.
What's that? You don't know? There was a name there.
I don't know their name. I just know I follow them, and we share their events and some of the statements. And I use their model to get our board to be a little bit more progressive.
Yeah. It's hard with everything.
Well, we've always had consensus until the Russia-Ukraine war.
Oh.
And we see different views of it. Some of us say, well, NATO has to be trimmed down, and they're the instigators. And then we're not trying to excuse Russia and Vladimir Putin, but you got to look where it started. You got to look at the history. And others said, well, we have to let the government send arms to Ukraine. And I would just say, well, hey, that's not our job. That's the State Department. Peace Action should talk about diplomacy. And we have, that's what we've been doing.
Again, insurmountable, evidently, with everything. I would not want to be Blinken with everything that he has to do. I don't know how he keeps it all straight and sane and whatever. But back to the women. You've probably been hearing about the rise of the divine feminine and all that the indigenous women are doing and coming together, and soul sisterhood and everything. There's a lot happening with what the women are doing. So I'm all in favor of that, and women being recognized as peacemakers. Not all women, of course, but
and in leadership positions.
Yes. Still, when would we see a woman as president, and how different could that be, or would that be, I wonder?
I don't think it would be that much different. Because when you have when you have women prime ministers from foreign countries, they know how to rule countries, but they're not, soft and cuddly. They are like men in a way. They're aggressive. They know what they want. So, I
Well,
mean, it's very similar.
in those instances, yes, but not necessarily always. I don't know. I suppose it's one of those questions that you could go on and on and on about.
Well,
Any views,
Yeah.
Don?
Malcolm, I
Malcolm
hear
has
you.
weighed in. How about you?
I hear you on that, Malcolm. And there's been so very few of those prime ministers. Now look at our local politics with the Squad. And those are women that have come out for human rights, civil rights, time after time. So, I mean, we've only seen a small sampling of women in leadership, Malcolm, is my answer to that.
Right.
So if we could
And
see
what
more
they had to
women,
do to get there was to, certainly not assert their femininity. They had to be, emasculated and no, not emasculated. They had to become masculinated to be in order to get to where they got to in their higher positions. So,
well, the women who are leaders, or the ones that I know who are corporate leaders or political leaders, they say if a man does the same thing, he's considered aggressive and assertive and taking over. And they say if a woman does the same thing, she's considered a. It's they can't take that same
I
personality.
thought you said we can't swear.
Well, that's not a swear word.
That's one word I won't use because it's sexist. But thank you. I mean, but you're quoting someone. I know you are.
But anyway, I wanted to know is with you're doing these groups about the Israeli conflict. What do you see that the tendency is in this country? Because there seems to be, again, I'm Jewish, and I see there's a lot of anti-Semitism, involved with Israel, and for me it's very. I empathize with the Palestinian people, and I don't want to see them killed. But I don't know any other way of getting rid of Hamas. I don't see any way where the people that they're trying to negotiate say, we want to destroy your country. We want the end of Israel. We want to take over the land. And if there is a ceasefire, we're going to build up the resistance and attack you again. And as a matter of fact, it extends to the certain groups that want to get rid of the entire Jewish race or religion worldwide. So how do you deal with people like that, and how, what do you do?
Well, what we have done wrong is, at least as far as the U.S. foreign policy, we've often inflamed the extremist. So by our foreign policy, well, okay, so go back to Ronald Reagan. Who did he get to beat the Soviets? The Mujahideen. So there we are, arming extremists to fight our battles. But when they take, when the Soviet Union was gone, the Mujahideen survived, right? Or at least similar groups like the Taliban. There might have been some cross section with that. It wasn't a direct, ascendance to the Taliban, but the Taliban is still around, and they're considered extremists, wouldn't you say? And we armed them. In fact, we gave a bunch of millions of dollars for their opioid eradication, their poppy eradication, right before 9/11. And then they became our enemy after that. So, okay, so you asked a couple questions, Malcolm. You talked about anti-Semitism, and of course, anti-Semitism is a terrible scourge on our population, and it should be eradicated. And as Islamophobia and other hates, all the hates. And however, sometimes anti-Semitism has been conflated with anti-Zionism. So and Zionism is considered extremism in many communities, and racism in some communities. Zionism is, because Zionism is what colonized the land, and there's Christian Zionists, there's Jewish Zionists, and they're working together right now. But the Christian Zionists see as you know, the prophecy says, you probably know, when the Jews are in Jerusalem, Jesus is coming back. I think that's how it goes. So they're striving for these end times. So right now, the Zionists are all buddies, but the Christian Zionists see the Jewish people going to hell if they don't convert at those final days. So they're all friends now, but that'll change. So there is conflation of anti-Semitism with anti-Zionism. And just by me saying that the Palestinians have the right to return to Israel, in some circles, that's considered anti-Semitic because the Jewish state would be lessened, of course, right? If the population
Well,
demographics change.
they offered a separate Palestinian state that the Palestinians turned down because they want from the what is it, the river to the ocean, river to the sea, which means they want to eradicate the entire Israel. But I have a question for you, which I don't know the answer. The Palestinian people live under Hamas. They're the basically rulers of that area. Question: they've been doing that since I think 1996.
2005.
What have they done for the Palestinian people?
2005.
2000. Okay, that was okay. But what have they done for the people?
Well, my friend, they provide the social service too. You know, they're the government. So all these, I traveled to Gaza in 2009. The government buildings were destroyed. I saw people's personal files that are kept, like the birth certificates and stuff, flying around the street. So, like if you look at Cleveland, Cuyahoga County, we've got government buildings. So yeah, I mean, that's part of what Hamas did too. They have an armed wing, and that's the Aqsa Brigade, I believe. And the Jewish Federation of Cleveland does social service, but at the same time, they backed the IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces, in their massacre of civilians. So was the IDF the armed wing of the Jewish
the IDF, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, is that the armed wing
Force
of the Jewish Community Federation? I mean, when they're saying go, 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 kill civilians, to me, that's the flip side of the coin of what you're talking about with, and yeah.
How is in Cleveland itself, how is the anti-Semitism? Is that becoming greater? Because I know in Los Angeles it is. There are more incidents of people attacking, people going to synagogue, to temple, especially if they can identify them as Jewish, and it's up by a huge amount.
No, it's not. It's subdued here, thankfully. There has been some, like at a graveyard, you might have seen some swastikas painted. This has happened, and again, the Islamophobia has been on the rise. I know that.
By the way, if you could get any of your meetings, recorded and send it over to us, we could put in as an adjunct to our shows.
We have some of it recorded, actually. The second one we did, yes. And
arrange it with Yana so we could place it. We could put a link.
That would be great.
Yeah, we have it on the Peace Action YouTube page now. The audibility wasn't great, but it's okay. And then we did some separate videos because that was from Zoom. That's why.
Yeah,
we were having trouble, and we had people from out of the country coming on. We had people from Egypt. And
that's what we do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now this next one, we have a man from the Center for Jewish Nonviolence coming on, Daniel, the director of the Center for Jewish Nonviolence, and he's in Israel, Palestine. He'll be coming on tonight. And then we have another man coming on from.
But by the way, before we forget, how do people get in touch with your organization if they want to join or they want to contribute or?
Oh, great. Thank you. ClevelandPeaceAction@gmail.com is one way. ClevelandPeaceAction@gmail.com. Now the website's a little backwards. It's Peace Action Cleveland. So there you have it.
And
We didn't
you
even,
guys are
I
part
was
of a
going to say,
national movement?
Oh, .org. Sorry. PeaceActionCleveland.org. Sorry.
That-
Go ahead. Sorry.
And you're part of a national group?
Well, yes, we are affiliated with the National Peace Action, but we act on our own.
there are several peace action groups around the country, is what you're saying.
Yes, but we're connected.
I mentioned Massachusetts. Does Colorado have one? Denver?
Not sure.
Do you know?
I do not know.
Well, we didn't mention Poor People's Campaign too. That's how we met. I would think I was probably going out when you were coming in, so there was just a little bit of time to know each other. That is a lot of work with the Poor People's Campaign too, which has chapters all over the country, and there's a big thing coming up in March 2nd. And the Poor People's Campaign is giving voice to the voiceless, to those whose voices haven't been able to be heard in marginalized communities. And Reverend Barber and Liz,
The O'Haras.
I forget. The O'Haras, yes,
O'Haras,
thank you. Are amazing people. But Reverend Barber now is with, he's not so much in leadership with the Poor People's Campaign, but he's with Divinity School. Is that what I heard? Or
Yep, could be. I don't follow everything.
Oh, okay. All
I'm
right.
I'm just a piece in the wheel. But
Piece of the wheel, piece of the cog. Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
cog in
you're
the wheel,
doing a
whatever.
lot since you went
Yeah,
to your first. You're doing a lot since you went to your first rally. I guess you must have gotten the activism bug there, or maybe you already had it.
Well, we're mobilizing. I don't know. Reverend Barber's still very, very visible in the Poor People's Campaign.
Oh yes, I know.
Yeah.
I know.
So we're mobilizing for a 31 state, or is it 40 states, 40 state gatherings at state capitals. So we're mobilizing for this right now. So we'll
right.
be on March
for
2nd.
Ohio, it's March
It'll
2nd.
be simultaneous around the country.
Yep.
On March 2nd at state capitals to issue our demands. And what are our demands? Well, for one, living wage, of course, healthcare, affordable healthcare, affordable housing, and an end to Christian fascism. Actually, you know, that's in there. I think we call it something else, but extremism.
Don,
Yes.
do you ever feel like you're swimming upstream, you know,
all the time,
or the rip tide, when you think you're getting ahead, all of a sudden the tide comes back and you're washed away?
Well, he's been doing this his whole life. That's why I said when he went to that rally way back in the late 70s, he must have really gotten
I guess it was 1980. It was 1980, actually, and I misrepresented.
No, well, anyway.
I thought it was 1979, but it was 1980 because that was the 10-year commemoration of Kent State shooting. So I know.
Oh, yeah, you're right. It was 1970.
All these years, I thought it was 79, but it was 80.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, well, I should have cut that. I'll correct that on your bio.
Because right after that, I got involved with the Save Our State from Nuclear Waste. And fact, when I turned and said to my brother at Kent, we got to become activists, hearing all the speeches, a few months later, Arnold Gleiser, a man from a math teacher from Lyndhurst, Ohio, was starting a campaign because the Department of Energy, the federal Department of Energy, was about to bury nuclear waste in the salt mines under Lake Erie. And because, hey, all these nuclear waste, we got to do something with it, right? So
let's put it under Lake Erie.
Yeah, right. We fought it and we won. And so I learned right then, you can fight City Hall, and yes, it is
and you can win.
But to answer your question, Malcolm, I just feel that when we're organizing together, I mean, this seem like small potatoes to most people, but there's a lot of love that comes between the activists. It's amazing. And it's like, I thrive on it, you know?
Yeah, it's energizing. It's like every little win, it just gives you that little more oomph you need to keep going.
And it's not just about political, it's about family, because
Yeah.
right now we're working with the Palestinian moms and dads, and they're talking about their families back home. And of course, we hear about the Jewish American families as well, the struggle from both sides. And we hear from both sides. Yes, we do.
But sometimes, in speaking to you, I feel like I'm watching a Man of La Mancha. Don Quixote. To dream the
Da,
impossible dream.
da, 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 da.
I'm Don Quixote, the man of La
Dream
Mancha.
the
I'll take that as a
impossible
compliment.
dream.
Anyway, we have about a minute left. Again, tell people where they could contact you or your group.
Cleveland Peace Action at gmail.com, or the website is peaceactioncleveland.org.
Well, good luck at your meeting tonight. I hope you get a good crowd and solve some of the world's problems. And
Well, if you do, if you solve any of the world's problems, please come back to us and we'll discuss it.
Thank you so much, Malcolm. Thank you for having me today, and Yana for inviting me. I appreciate it.
Well, I had to bug you a little bit, but I knew it would be a good thing. So thanks for letting me bug you.
And again, thank you for your service. I mean, I know there are not that many people like you who are
very inspiring,
fighting for a just cause.
Yes.
Thank you, Malcolm. It means a lot.
And thanks again for being on. Yana, I'll see you next week.
All right.
And you're listening to Malcolm and We, heard on malcolmpresents.com. See you guys next week. Bye.
The objective of the organization We the World is to facilitate cooperation on a global scale amongst groups and individuals dedicated to implementing solutions to the many challenges we face on the planet at this time.